It's 10 feet tall and made of flesh. Its face, narrow at the bottom, tapers outward the higher it goes, so that at its widest point halfway up, two people can pass easily through the red, sinewy folds that cloak its entrance. Past that point, its maw narrows again, reconnecting and forming a peak towards the top. It pulsates as it breathes, its rhythm consistent and unyielding. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. The polyps scattered along its outer walls pulsate as well, throbbing at their own individual tempos, deflating and inflating, some swelling as large as basketballs, then shriveling back down until they look like oversized raisins. I half expect them to burst and spew forth the thick yellow pus that festers inside of them. But their translucent membranes are more resilient than they look. Mary and I are a good 20 yards from it, standing in the field of a farm we'll no longer own come Monday. And still, we can smell the pungent musk emanating from the thing. It's sickly sweet, like rotten meat. Even at this distance, its scent permeates the air, invading my mouth and nose, nesting in the back of my throat. The growth wasn't here earlier today. They only ever germinate by moonlight. But once they sprout, they reach maturity within hours. This is the first one either of us has seen in person. We've stared at pictures and videos on the internet. We've even watched scientists in big, thick glasses and white lab coats speculate about them on television. There's nothing like seeing one with your own eyes. Nothing could prepare us for it. Should we call the cops? I asked. Mary shoots me a grin. It's nice to see her smile, even if it's only fleeting. What are they gonna do? She asks. I don't have an answer. When the growths first started sprouting, protocol was for police to set up a perimeter around them until the feds could swoop in with their fancy mobile research stations. Everything was hush-hush back then. The public knew even less about them than we do now, so it was easier to keep the growths under wraps. But what was once a rare occurrence has since spiraled out of control. Over the past weeks, thousands of them have begun sprouting across the globe, and this anomaly has showed no signs of slowing down. Here in the US, federal agencies are running out of personnel and resources to secure them all. I don't think we should tell anyone, Mary says. In 2 days, it becomes the bank's problem. Who's going to buy a farm with this thing in the front yard? I imagine a representative from the bank pulling up to the property for an inspection and dropping his latte in his lap the second he spots the monstrosity looming over the field like a gigantic, tumor-ridden scarecrow. The growths can't be removed from where they're rooted. People have tried. Lord knows they've tried. But nothing seems to work. They may be organic in nature, but these indestructible mounds of flesh are hyper-resilient to fire, poison, or any other means of destruction conceivable to the human mind. Torture a growth long enough, they might bleed. Subject their bubbling cysts to enough external stress, and they may even rupture. But they heal almost immediately, and so far getting them to budge has been impossible. They render the ground around them infertile, which is a fact I'm sure Mary finds even more amusing than I do. She grew up on this farm, so it's only right that once those bloodsuckers finally take it from us, the land will be worthless. Bank's not going to be happy, I say. This prompts a round of laughter from both of us. It's strange to be laughing in this moment, not because of the growth, but because I thought we had forgotten how to. After everything we'd been through, I was sure that it would never happen again, and yet here we are. Doubled over in the useless field, holding our sides, cackling like coyotes. It isn't long before the moment fades, though, and as it does, our giggles drift up to the firmament, carrying with them the last remnants of joy that had been lingering inside us. Once more, the night is quiet, and only the growth's deep, raspy breath fills the air. In, 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4. Mary moved towards it in order to get a better view. In the moonlight, its cavernous mouth agape, the growth is a fearsome sight to behold. My heart skips a beat with every step she takes in its direction. I try to tell myself she's in no immediate danger. The growth won't suddenly lunge forward and gobble her up. They don't work that way. Biologists believe they're more akin to a cluster of cancer cells than a man-eating beast. Yet still, I fear for my wife. "Be careful!" I call out. But she barely acknowledges my concern. All I get in return is a lazy, over-the-shoulder wave as she wanders even closer to the throbbing pile of bulk. She's close enough to reach out and touch it now, and I can't help but think I'm going to lose her any second. I don't want to, but I follow her. I tell myself I'm rushing to protect her, but deep down, I wonder what it is I'm protecting her from. The growth's folds are drawn at the moment. When they're like that, nothing could penetrate its wall. A jackhammer couldn't force its way in. Even dynamite won't blow them open. "I'm wearing clothes," she says, once I finally catch up to her. There's a hint of irritation in her voice. "You didn't need to rush." The folds will only part for pure, living organic matter. It's one of the many mysteries about these things. Step into the mouth of the growth wearing a t-shirt and jeans, press your hand against the barrier, and it's as hard as a diamond. Take your clothes off and you can push them aside with no effort at all. It is because of this reason every demonstration we've ever watched involved them as being conducted in the nude. Jesus, I groaned, desperate to change the subject. It's as hot as a summer day. I'm not just making conversation. The temperature rises and drops considerably near the mouth of the growth. Every few seconds as it moves into its rhythmic pulsations, warm waves of heat envelop our bodies only to be usurped by the cold autumn night as soon as it draws its breath back in. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. The smell is even more powerful now, but strangely enough, it doesn't repulse me. Somehow I've acclimated to the pungent aroma. Mary and I pace around the growth, studying it. Up close we can make out every detail across its surface. Every cyst, every mole, every clump of black wiry hair sprouting along its back. At this distance I can now make out thousands of smaller polyps, some no bigger than an inch in diameter, throbbing in and out. It's a machine of meat, each of specific part churning on its own, the many working in unison to fulfill the function of the greater whole, whatever that might be. As tall and wide as the growth is, it's only about a foot deep. They're all shaped this way, a detail that's opened up a bevy of puzzling questions no one has been able to answer. "Where do you think they go?" Mary asks. "The people?" I reply. "Nobody knows." She glances back at me and rolls her eyes. We've been married for 7 years and can tell when I'm ducking a question. I sigh, resigning myself to the conversation, and regurgitate some factoid that I read online. Some say they're like a Venus flytrap, and that they secrete a type of saliva that breaks down anything stupid enough to walk inside its mouth into a puddle of nutrients that it then absorbs through some unknown mechanism. The flytrap theory circulated as a possible explanation for some of the growths, more curious enigmas, but it's hardly considered gospel. "I don't believe that for a second," Mary said. "If that were the case, why would they only eat humans?" I shrug my shoulders, but that isn't good enough for her. "You've watched the experiments," she says. "They've pushed animals inside of him, Everything from pigs to primates. It doesn't matter what poor dumb beast they sacrifice in the name of science. Outcome's always the same. The animal pushes itself through the folds, almost immediately bumps its muzzle against the back wall, turns around and walks out. So why does it work different for humans? She's referring to the experiments. There are hundreds of videos on the internet where people have established the physics-bending quality of the growths whenever a human is used as a stand-in. It's like watching a magician perform an illusion. The demonstrator will stand in front of the growth and slide their hand between the folds. Due to how shallow they appear from the outside, one would expect the demonstrator's hand to reach the back before they even were elbow deep. But it never finds pay dirt. First, the elbow enters the mouth, then the bicep. Next thing you know, the person in the video has pushed themselves all the way up to their shoulder. If they hinge over and bend at the waist, they can stick their entire torso inside as well, extending themselves inside the growth to an impossible depth. Great care is always taken to not go all the way inside during these demonstrations, because no person who's done that has ever come out. Of course, people began abusing the phenomena almost as soon as they could. Just yesterday, some general in Africa was in the news, forcing an entire village at gunpoint to disappear into the mouth of the growth. One by one, his army stripped the people naked, then lined them up, and one by one they entered the thing, never to be seen again. I think it's a door, Mary says. Her voice is dreamlike. I think the reason people don't come back is because they don't want to. But you have to go all the way through. You have to take the plunge, otherwise it doesn't work. I scoff. You sound like that cult. A week ago, 22 people willingly entered an undocumented growth in the New Mexico desert, one that they'd been keeping secret. They were part of a shady religious organization that believed the flesh mounds were God's way of shepherding his chosen people off to eternal paradise. I'm not saying you walk through one of these things and end up in the Garden of Eden, but maybe it takes you somewhere better. She pauses for a second and collects her thoughts. To be honest, that's a pretty low bar. Maybe it takes you somewhere worse, I said. There's no way back. Mary hangs her head and shuffles her feet in the dirt. She's frustrated. It's a tic that she's had since I've known her. I don't know if anywhere could be worse. Sometimes I wonder why we even brought Ella into this world. That stings. More than stings. It grinds my heart into pulp. She cut me deep and she knows it, so she wraps her arm around my waist and presses her face to my chest. Mary's crying. I can feel her tears soaking through my shirt. She tries to speak, her words a string of broken whimpers. I miss her so much. I had already forgiven her. Even before she realized she hurt me, how could I not? It's easy because I understand where she's coming from. Some nights I lie in bed and I think the same thing too. It was a beautiful 2 years. And I'm at least grateful for that, I say. Mary's arm tightens around my body and I feel like I'm in a vice. She doesn't know how hard she's squeezing, but I'm not going to stop her. She needs this more than I need to breathe. And then she got sick at the hospital. And insurance companies bent us over a barrel. She growls. Did the bank care? Did the debt collectors care? No, those vultures bled us dry. She pulls away, and I suck as much air into my lungs as I can. The rage has left her, and I'm sorry for it. It was a nice change. The only emotion I ever see her show these days is grief. but usually she's just numb. Mary places a hand on her stomach and stares down at it. I wish I could have just kept her here where she'd be safe. I don't refute this notion. As strange as it seems, I agree with it in principle. What business do we have bringing life into a world like this? One rife with predatory lenders, and genocidal warlords, and respiratory infections that become fatal to infants. With Mary's womb as a barrier between Ella and the outside world, our baby girl would have been fine. Not even the virus would have been able to take her from us. We're gazing into the mouth of the growth again. Its breath wafts into our faces, and I'm surprised to realize I've been looking forward to its exhalations. It's soothing. When it washes over me, the chill of the night disappears, and with it so do my problems. For a brief, wondrous second, its hot, muggy breath becomes the only thing in the world. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. It's easy to find comfort in its never-ending cadence. The growths are imperishable, unwavering, eternal. No matter how much shit the world flings at them, they'll persist. There's a beauty in that. Mary's question breaks me from my trance. You ever wish you could go back? I'm surprised to see that she's looking at me and not the growth. You ever wish you could crawl back inside your mother's womb and live out your life in peace, in isolation, away from all the heartache, where nothing can hurt you again? I consider this for a moment. If I did that, I say, I couldn't be with you. She grabs my hand and pulls it to her chest. Her eyes narrow on the growth again. What if we could do it together? What are you saying? I ask, but I already know what she's suggesting. A part of me was even expecting it. I'm so tired, she says. I can't keep going much longer. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. What if it kills us? I say. And what if it doesn't? I'm scared, I confess. I'm scared of tomorrow. And the day after that. I moan and my eyes begin to water. She steps towards me, wipes the tears from my face, and begins to rock me in her arms. I love you, I sob. I love you too. I attempt to protest more, but I can't. Every time I think I've found the words, something pushes them back down my throat. She looks up to me, her eyes wide, and then utters the words that make my stomach drop. Come with me. And when she says that, I know she's already gone. I could grab her by her collar, pull her kicking and screaming back into the house, tie her to the bed, but I know that she'd find a way to leave me eventually. If not by growth, then by sleeping pills or gun or razor blade down the wrist. That time bomb has been ticking since Ella passed. I've been trying to ignore it, hoping that she might turn around, but a part of me has understood it was going to go off sooner or later. The only thing that has kept her tethered here is me. So in a way, I'm responsible for prolonging her suffering. She's well aware that she's all I have left, and I can't live without her. Our souls have become hopelessly entwined. To end one is to end the other. but she doesn't have the strength to sacrifice for me anymore. One of us has to make a sacrifice. Maybe it's my turn. I step back and begin to undress. Mary takes my cue and does the same. 1,000 thoughts run through my head as we strip off our clothes. Is it guilt that's driving my actions, or is it the fact that I can't bear to be without her? Once we're fully unclothed, we face each other and stare in silence for what feels like eons. It's surreal standing here naked in this field, taking each other in for perhaps the very last time. I wonder what she's thinking. The butterflies in my stomach are fluttering, faster than they ever have before. But I focus my eyes on Mary, because she keeps me grounded. Here in the moonlight, she's more beautiful than the day I met her. Even after all the loss, all the misery, each and every scar she wears, she's more dazzling and magnificent than all the stars shining above our heads. Mary takes me by the hand. It's so warm. You don't have to do this, she says. I nod my head to let her know that I'm with her. What other choice do I have? She leads and I follow. Mary takes us directly in front of the mouth of the growth. This close up, the heat that it radiates is sweltering. The night air can't penetrate it. Even when it inhales, there's only warmth. And when it exhales, bathing us in its breath, the humidity is so intense that it makes the world melt away. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. My heart's thumping so hard I think that it might burst through my chest. An infinite number of possibilities could be waiting for us beyond the red veil, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to face any of them. Mary slides her arm inside the crevice. Just like in the demonstration we've watched, the folds push apart effortlessly. We can't see far inside it. The slick red curtain falls back on itself further inside of the thing's mouth, preventing any chance of us to get a peek at what lays ahead. But already this tunnel is impossibly deep. I could turn around. It isn't too late, but I'll have to make a decision soon. What I need more than anything is for Mary to stop, to look me in the eyes and promise me everything will be okay. But she's too focused on moving forward. Even though her body is here with me, her heart has already passed through to the other side. My feet are frozen in place, but hers carry her further. She pushes herself deeper through the folds. Now just her hand is peeking out, and I'm holding on to it for dear life. The apprehension I've had has now turned into full-blown panic. "Mary!" I shout. But she doesn't answer. She's pulling on my hand, dragging me slowly, inch by inch, until she disappeared through the entrance of the growth and taken half of my arm with her. I'm not ready to take the plunge. I'm not ready to be without her either. I need to buy some time, so I try to pull her back. But it's like playing tug-of-war with a boulder. I can't move her. How is that possible? She doesn't weigh more than 115 pounds. I call her name again, but there's only the growth's breath now. It's all around me, louder than before, so deafening that it's scrambling my thoughts. Perhaps that's what scares me most, is that a piece of me welcomes it, wants it to engulf me, until there's only white noise drowning out the unbearable clamor of my life. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. But only a part of me yearns for this. The rest of me wants to go back to when we were happy, before the bills and the collection agencies, before we had to bury our little girl. It was my Eden. But that's a garden that I've already been expelled from. Can I have that back if I follow her? What if it's worse? What if there's nothing at all? I can still feel the warmth of Mary's palm pressed against mine. Or is that the growth? I'm not sure anymore. What will I do if she's no longer there when I pass through? How could I face this unknown without her? Something is tugging my arm. Is that her? I can't tell for sure. I'm sinking deeper and deeper, impossibly deeper between the folds. I have to make my choice. I have to do it now. Either I take the plunge like Mary, or I let go now and face the world without her. I have too many questions, but not enough time to sift through them all. There's only one certainty, one constant, one infallible fact that I cannot deny. No matter what I do, no matter what awaits me on the other side, whether it's heaven, hell, or something else entirely, the growth will still be here in this field. A monument to eternity. It will still be here breathing. Its rhythm still unbroken, unchanged no matter what. From now until the end of time. In, 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I wanted to tell you thank you so much for watching today's video, or listening to tonight's episode of the podcast. I'm going to tell you guys about one quick thing, and that's called Chilling. It's the Chilling app. The Chilling app is available for you guys to be able to listen to a whole bunch of different stories like you listen to here, or like you listen to on the podcast, or like you listen to on YouTube. Except it has some amazing features that you can't get on any of my stuff, and that's, 1, other people, and 2, this cool feature that allows you to turn on ambient sound and ambient music. You get to choose where you want to listen to the story and what kind of sound effects you want to hear around it. And they even got a whole bunch of music from you, who does all the piano music that you guys usually hear on this channel, but it's all there. And there's a whole bunch of awesome narrators on there along with me. There's a new story that comes out every week. Guys, check it out. There's a link in the description down below to check out Chilling app that's available now on Apple and on Google Store and on other stores. I'm sure there's more stores for mobile devices these days, right? And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to everybody who's out there on the Patreon, patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. So a big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Stephanie Butler, Reaper61167, Bobby Karman, Tristain Pelton, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, Atomaurus, Grand Moth the Milky, Big Smoke 369, Michael Mcivor, Captain Scurvy, SaltyIrishPoet, Estebean, Brayden Morris, Nate Kuhl, HorrorFan1212, hourminsec Time, Kyle Reznak, David Martin, scare-ington the unkempt, Robert Malcolm, Angelus, Spanky, Snoochie Boochies, Seclude, Lupita Galvan, That Creepy Chick, Tyler Fletcher, Merxinum, Red Shadowcat, Xavier the Cheyenne, Demix, Shawn Cadieu-baker, 6 Gay Rats in a Trenchcoat, Turtleman, Rob Like Sharp Thing, Chaos Arts, Cryolinian, Xavier Graffius, Lord Life's Best, Goreng Trimagasi, Maria Walker, Emily Mitchell, Crazy Kid, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Ika Limchok, Dirt Diver 030, Matt Bach, Voice of Sand, Coffee Zombie, Hidden Tiger, Shelly J, Jeremy H, Psychomel, Nana, Deleted Account, Melted Lake, Tully Sue, William King, David Miver, Michael Ortiz, Satanic Aries, Bardo Hawk 764, Lambda M98, Harley, Sashi Suzaku, Cronut 509, Kaylee Ambrose, Suji Campbell, Stricket, Azarine Fox, Freddy Krueger, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades' Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Benjamin Welvert, Here with the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenship. My goodness, the list is getting long. But hey, I appreciate all of you. And to everybody who watches and subs and likes and leaves comments and does all those things, sweet dreams.